What advice would you give to young people today in high school and college? How to have a career they can be proud of, or maybe how to have a life in general they can be proud of?
I would say like your 20s is a good opportunity to set yourself up for the rest of your life, right? So while the 20s are a period where you want to have fun and you want to experience youth, it's also a good opportunity to start thinking about what do you want your life to look like in your 30s and your 40s,
Mhm.
right? So I feel like it's the best time to really put yourself out there and take risks and try to hit it, whatever, like to work really, really hard to set yourself up. Because, and I said this at a event I was speaking at, when you're like with poker, when your bankroll is very, very small, it's replenishable,
Mhm.
right? You don't need to protect it as much as you do once you've got something,
Mhm.
right? Once you have a brand or you have money or you have something like that, that's when you want to start protecting it. But in your 20s is an opportunity to just really sort of to work really, really hard to set yourself up, for the future. I am concerned a little bit. Like every time I talk to kids today, I'm like, what do you want to be? They all want to be YouTubers or
Mhm.
Instagram stars or
Yeah.
rappers, right? Like, okay, it's like, that's cool, but like, there's only so many of those that there can be. So it might be worthwhile having a little bit of a backup plan.
I think it's easier to be successful on Instagram and social media if you do something else. And
I would say this too. One other thing I would say is don't choose a profession or an idea because you think it'll make you rich,
yeah.
right? Pursue something that you actually love. Because if you love it, you're way more likely to become rich. If you don't, you do something that you don't actually enjoy. Now you're spending a lot of your life unhappy doing something you don't want, and and if you're not passionate about it, you're probably not. The chances of you being successful are much lower.
And also becoming rich. And I've talked to a lot of rich people, hang out with a lot of rich people, is not going to be as fulfilling as you imagine if you arrive there by not doing the thing that you love doing.
That's the truth.
Ultimately, the thing that you love doing is like that's what makes life worth
There's
living.
another quote, and I can't remember who it was. Otherwise, I would quote them. But it says something to the effect of like, um, if we believe in the lie that more is always better, then we can never truly arrive. Because wherever we are, more is better, right? I've never understood, and I've been around rich people like, you said, the bill. I don't get it. Like, if you have $1 billion, why do you give a shit about money at all?
Yeah.
Like, and they're still like, oh, we made this deal. And I'm like, we picked up 300. Who cares? Like, your life is set. Like, there is that bell curve, right?
Mhm.
Where obviously being in poverty, there's obviously a high rate of unhappiness, but there's a certain amount of money where you reach where you reach a level of happiness, and then too much, you find that people that are searching for money to fulfill these holes, it starts to go back down again.
Well, the getting more money could become a game, like a sport that's fun to play as long as you directly or indirectly acknowledge that what you love is the game of it
Sure.
versus the actual attainment of
And I
money.
think that's what it is,
Yeah.
right? For me, I've never cared about money that much. I just never did. Otherwise, I would have a lot more of it. But it's always been strange to me how people that have that kind of money like are cheap in any way.
Mhm.
Like they wouldn't donate 5,000 to a worthwhile charity because
Yeah.
it's like, buddy, like when it changes your life. Not, even like small things like taxes. Like, okay, you have $20 billion and you're worried about paying 33%, 30% to 31. I get it. I get the point of it all, but like it literally has no effect on your life whatsoever. Your life is unchanged, whether it's 31 or 33.
Yeah, that's the negative of a lot of money is if it corrupts the way you see the world, you start to be protective and so on. I mean, part of the challenge of when you get a lot of money is people start to treat you differently, and so navigating that correctly is very challenging. So don't change. Keep, remain the same person you always were, because if you change, you start to. I mean, that's why power corrupts. Is you get a lot of power, you get a lot of fame, you get a lot of money, you start to distrust people, you start to push away people that are actually really close
And
to
you
you and worth
also, I think
trusting.
you develop some biases where you think like you're just this, you think like it was all you and you're a
Yeah.
genius and you're so great and all these other people who don't have, it's just because they don't have what you have. And like then you start to like view that group of people, whether they're impoverished or whatever, as like less than,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're some like great guru where you could have just got lucky and bought Bitcoins that, could have done anything. And then you became like super wealthy. And then you have this like Dunning-Kruger effect where you think you know everything about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of poker people have that. And listen, I'm probably guilty in some ways too. thinking because you can figure out poker and be, great at that you could figure out anything. So there's like, it's true, right? I mean, we genuinely feel like people that reach the highest levels of poker feel like they are intelligent. So they will look at problem solving and think that they have answers.
Well, you have to remind yourself that you're not. It's best to see the world as you did just get lucky, or at least from my perspective, that you're not better than anybody.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with like acknowledging that you worked hard to get where you were. Like there isn't. But at the same time, like it's not available to everybody in the same way. Right time, right place. Like for me, my poker career could have gone very differently. If things didn't work out, if I had some bad luck in the wrong times, like who knows where I'd be.
So you said your bankroll is pretty small in your 20s. I'm sure you've been around a lot of people you care a lot about who've lost everything in poker. What's that like? What's those low points of losing everything?
I think because I've been there, I have more empathy than I probably should for those people. I really feel for them because I remember being in Vegas and being totally broke and like a guy loaning me $400 and me like turning that 400 into 20,000, $400. And it was like eternally grateful of that. So when I have friends who go through that, like I always try to consult them. Obviously, what they really need is money for the most part. But I remember saying no to one friend because he didn't have a plan. So I like to try to help them in that regard. Like my buddy's like, can you stake me in this game? And I was like, all right, well, how much do you, then I was like, let's break down the math, bro. Mm-hmm. You want me to stake you, so you get 50% of the profit, right? So I said, how much do you think you can make in this game? How much does the biggest winners make? He's like, well, I can probably, I'd probably do like 20,000 a month in this game. So, okay. So you get half of that because I get 10, right? Mm-hmm. What is your monthly nut? How much are you spending? It's like, well, I'm renting this thing for 8,000. You're spending 17,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So like, no matter what, you're set up to fail. Like this isn't going to work. So I actually didn't give him the money. And I was like, what you need to do to earn more money is lower your monthly nut because it's too high. It just, it just doesn't mathematically add up. So trying to set them right in that regard is something that like, I feel obliged to do, especially if they're friends.
But what about the mental aspect of the struggle they're going through, the struggle you were going through? Just, I mean, it's really rough to have no money.
It's not for everybody. This really isn't. Like a lot of people might, listen to this and think like, oh, I want to play poker. It's like most people fail. Most people who want to play in the NFL, they spend their college years, like they're most of them are not going to make it. Most of you who try to play poker professionally are going to fail and you're going to experience despair. Okay. There are those, like in anything, that have the passion, have the know-how, have the luck and all that sort of stuff. And it all pans out, but they're the minority.
And so for the low points, if you remember, what does it take to sort of overcome the mental struggle? I mean, you're making it sound like certain people are just genetically able to in certain art.
I do think some people are more apt to being able to deal with like adversity and having resilience, and some people just can't hack it. But like what I would advise with, people that are, let's say a guy's playing, really high stakes or whatever, doing badly, is step number one is take a little bit of a break here. Let's recalibrate and let's start small again. Let's restart and let's play smaller stakes and let's get our confidence back, because in poker, without confidence, you cannot be successful. It is incredibly important to have almost an inflated level of confidence in yourself because you're up against it, right? As I said, the majority of people fail. So why are you special? Why are you different? You have to be pretty confident about yourself to think that you are one of the chosen ones.
And then don't resist the despair and take a nap.
Definitely take a nap. And
better.
It's okay to experience it. Like I said, yeah, you're going to experience the spirit. What else what should you be feeling? Yeah. If things are going poorly and you just lost all your money. Excited? Yeah. Maybe like, okay, have your moment of grief, allow yourself to experience it so that you can, reassemble.
There's a fundamental way in which you haven't really lived life if you haven't experienced periods of despair.
You have a jaded view of the world. Right.
It's a weird thing about the human condition that both the highs and the lows are important.